Hi guys, welcome back. So the topic this week is we asked some friends to share some questions that they had about TS, and we're gonna answer them. So we have some questions that were texted in, and then we have one of my friends, Micah, actually on the podcast with us today. So I think we're gonna start with her questions. So yay!
Perfect. Hi, guys. So, my first question for you guys is what does the diagnosis process look like for Turner syndrome?
Okay. So basically, you get a blood test, and it takes like 1 to 2 weeks to get back because someone has to actually look at this one. It's called a karyotype, and a karyotype is like a zoom in on your chromosomes. If anyone else wants to add to that.
Yeah, but a lot of things can trigger the need for getting a karyotype, and to add on to what Greta said, my karyotype came back the next day after I was born, but a lot of things can trigger someone needing to get a karyotype. Like, it can typically be deformities in the neck, in the heart, or in other areas that could cause the need for a karyotype.
Yeah, like for example, mine was my height and weight. Something with Turner syndrome is you're definitely shorter, and I had hypothyroidism, which is where your thyroid doesn't like to work, and so it caused me to gain around 100 pounds, and that triggered my doctor to be like, "What's going on?"
Me, it was my heart, because I have very much a classic Turner syndrome heart, and they wanted to test me for it.
Yeah, the diagnosis process can be really different depending on the person. Like for me, I was diagnosed in the womb because my mom got the typical test for Down syndrome that every pregnant mother gets, and they saw something wrong, and so they were like, we need to look at this further. So yeah, the diagnosis process can look very different depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah, like I got diagnosed this year actually in March or February. Can't remember exactly when I got it back. I think it was March. I got it tested in February though. And I was 14. I'm 15 now, and yeah, it's very different once you're actually like a teenager because it takes them longer to get it back. It's not like rushed as much and you don't know. So it's pretty it really changed a lot of how I live. So
Cool. Thank you, guys. Is it good for me to move on to my next question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. So, my next one was what are the most common symptoms?
Yeah, so short height is definitely a really common one. Lots have like ADHD, heart defects, stuff like that.
delayed puberty is also one of them, and issues with your thyroid is a huge one. Issues with your kidneys and heart. Some people with classic Turner syndrome have horseshoe kidneys, which means their kidneys are kind of like fused together in a weird way, and it makes kind of like a U shape.
Lymphedema can also be a really common symptom. That's how I got diagnosed, because I had really swollen feet.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that too, because that's how I got diagnosed.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say.
Mary knows the name of it, but it's like coarctation of the aorta.
Yep. Yeah, it's called, one of the most common heart defects that people with TS have. It's called the coarctation of the aorta. So the aorta is the biggest artery in the body. It comes right out of the heart and it pumps blood to your body. So basically what can happen in Turner syndrome is it's narrow, and they'll have to go in and correct it through surgery. That's what happened to me when I was a baby.
Me, I had to have surgery when I was 6.
And I don't know the name of it, but another heart defect that I have is everyone is born with this little hole in their heart, and it usually closes, but mine did not close. And it doesn't cause anything, but it has to be monitored a lot.
Do you know what it's called?
No, I don't remember what it's called. I was told the name of it, I just don't remember it right now.
Is it the bicuspid aortic valve?
I don't know, Michaela. I feel like it probably is something like that. I don't feel like it's a valve though. I don't remember valve in the name.
Well, when the leaflets fuse, because a valve is made up of 3 leaflets, but 2 of them fuse, creating 2 instead of 1.
That's what
I think the valve is different than what Greta has.
Okay. I have both the coracoid aorta and the bicuspid valve.
I think I have bicuspid, but last time I went to a cardiologist, they weren't actually sure, so.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody's already said this, but another common symptom is people can have a like wide or like webbed neck. That's another common symptom. I don't know if anybody said that, but yeah, I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the key signs. Another thing is like hearing loss. I have that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I know. Yeah, I do know. I have to go to the ENT and I have to get my hearing retested every couple years or something, and I've also had to get a couple surgeries for ear tubes. So I don't know. I think
yeah,
ear
same.
tubes are something else that a lot of us have.
Yeah, I have to get mine tested yearly, and I've had so many surgeries on my ears.
Oh yeah, same.
Also,
I had
Maddie can relate to this, but constant ear infections. I get them
yes.
all the time. I got them so
Yes.
much when I was a baby, and I can like feel when they're coming on. Whenever I
Oh
have
my
a
gosh,
cold,
that
which I
is
do
the
now,
worst. Yes.
I get an ear infection right after it. My ears are so clogged, and I can't hear a thing. It's so
Oh
bad.
yeah. Oh yeah, same. I had chronic ear
100%.
infections. I had chronic ear infections as a kid. I don't have them as much anymore, but now whenever I do get them, I'm like, okay, this is definitely an ear infection because the feeling is just all too familiar. And I also had a couple surgeries for tubes when I was a baby.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the next question.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. You guys are answering these so well. Like, I'm so intrigued. So my last question was, me and Sarah have talked a lot about like similar mental health like disorders that we have. Like, I have Tourette's, and I know that Sarah also has tics, and so I was wondering, like, how does Turner syndrome tie into those other? I know you guys were talking about ADHD earlier. Like, how does it tie into those, and how common is that in people with TS?
Yeah, so here like suffers with anxiety, like critical anxiety. So that's a really
Yep.
common one. And also neurodivergency like ADHD, autism, sensory processing disorders are also really common if anyone wants to add to that stuff.
Yeah, because Turner
Yeah,
syndrome also affects the brain, so it does cause a lot of issues. Like, a lot of us have difficulties in math because of nonverbal learning disorders.
And dyslexia, too.
Some of us are sensitive to certain stimuli, such as noise, touch, sights or sounds, things like that, and a lot of other things.
Yes, anxiety is one. And I notice that it also directly correlates with like health. Like if I feel like the slightest thing off with my body, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to have this done and this done. Like I get such bad health anxiety because of everything that I've been through.
Yeah, it's medical trauma. It's definitely a trigger.
My anxiety is definitely, I don't know if this goes back to like the stuff I've dealt with, you guys know, but my anxiety is super, super related to like friendships and that kind of stuff due to like middle school stuff. It's super, super related to that.
Yeah,
and
I know
also
that
like school anxiety, I stress so much about the littlest things with school. Like it won't even be like a big assignment. I'll be like, oh my god, this is gonna take me hours and hours, and then I'll sit down and do it and it takes me 10 minutes. My brain likes to like blow stuff up.
Yeah, my brain does that too.
Oh, it was so bad in high school. Now that I've graduated, it's gotten better, but it was so bad in high school.
Mine was in particular bad in middle school.
Yeah, I know. I'll get like 2 or 3 assignments assigned in one day, and they'll literally be due like in a month, and I'll be like, oh my god, my brain will just like freak out. It's crazy.
And I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm the only one of us who has tics, but mine definitely, I have a TS diagnosis, and I think it definitely stems from that anxiety that we were all talking about, because that's what like triggered them. Is it was like one little small anxiety thing. It was actually an audition, so hashtag theater kid life, but it like triggered it and like set it off, and then I started having tics. So
we all cheered. Sarah and I survived. We all cheered.
Yay! Good for you guys.
Congrats. Okay, that was like all of my questions, but thank you guys so much. Like, I learned
those
so
were
much.
actually really good questions. Like they were actually really fun to answer. So let's move on to Aspen's friend Asher. And I have the questions for this one because Asher texted their questions. So
yes, because they are
Ashy Washy's questions. Let me find their contact. Okay. Asher's first question, they have 2, is how does it affect friendships?
Happen with TS is we sometimes have struggles with, reading kind of more nonverbal social cues.
Definitely.
So that can
I'm
sort of
so
affect
bad at social cues.
So that can affect our interactions with people sometimes.
Yeah.
So that can make it
lead
difficult.
to
I
a lot of
think
miscommunications.
I
I
think that
definitely feel like a lot of times like I'm super awkward when hanging out with friends.
I think
Oh,
that
yeah, no,
kind
Definitely.
same.
I
You're not
Me
alone.
so
too.
am too.
I think that kind of ties into like the question that was answered before. I think it's all kind of like just anxiety related, and kind of making sure, or for me at least, that like I don't like to let other people down, or especially like wondering if other people are upset at me or things like that. For me
Yeah, mine is
specifically.
very, very
Yes,
anxiety
that
related.
is so true.
Also, I don't know if you guys struggled with this, but when I growing up, because I knew I had Tonisudum, I always felt like different from my peers, and I think that kind of made me push them away a little bit at times. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that,
Yeah,
but
I
I
do.
always
I
Yes.
do.
I
Yes,
don't
that
know
was
how much
so
of it
bad.
I don't know how much of it for me like came from TS. Probably a lot of it did subconsciously, but I was always like, I just wouldn't like talk to people because I was like, oh well, there's no way they would like me or like want to be my friends, and I just like didn't talk to anyone. So I feel that.
Yes,
Like-
I feel like that's
Yeah,
a
no.
big part of the social anxiety too, is you feel so different.
Oh yeah,
That
for
plays
sure.
into the social anxiety as well.
Yeah,
For
it's
sure,
a weird
and-
it's a weird feeling to be like different than other people, but also having that thing not be super visible. I think that's
Yeah.
a weird feeling.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
would
It's
agree
like-
with that.
I
It's like you
remember-
know you're different, but like nobody else does, and it's like a struggle.
Yeah, because I wasn't like, my parents knew that I had Turner syndrome before I was born, but I didn't know till I was 9. So I was always like, why? I always questioned, like, why am I so different from all my other friends? Like, what is, like, why do I feel, I knew I felt different, but I didn't know why. And that was really scary.
Did they tell you why you were doing growth hormones?
Well, no, because I was growing normally until I was like 8 or 9, and then they were like, okay, this,
Yeah, that
Um,
was me too.
yeah, they were like, we didn't, you were growing, I was growing normally until I was 9, and then they were like, okay, your growth is bad now, so we need to put you on growth hormone. So that's why my parents didn't tell me until I was 9, because I was kind of normal for my age. But up until I was 9, I was always questioning, like, I know I'm different from all my friends, but why? Like, it was weird.
Yeah. All right. Next question Asher has is how does it affect relationships and love life?
I mean, it doesn't affect, personally for me, it hasn't affected any of my, like, romantic situations that much. I mean, it's good for the person to know, like, at least be aware of the situation and everything like that, so they can, so, like, if you're ever having a hard day with it, then they can be there for you, but it could, I could see that it could lead to, like, some miscommunications or arguments because they might not understand something about it. But other than that, I don't see how it affects, it doesn't, at least for me personally, it hasn't affected any of my romantic situations, like, too much.
Yeah, I've never dated anyone, but the one thing I could see it affecting with me, because I'm straight, is like the infertility aspect. Like when you get into like a serious relationship as an adult, so it's nothing any of us have had to deal with now. But like when does that conversation come up? I feel like it's the main thing I would see it affecting for me in the future.
Oh yeah, same.
I haven't dated anyone either, but one thing I kind of even worry about is opening up a bit of Tonishinum, and like if they would see me differently because I can't have kids, or if they'll see me as like less female because of all the delayed puberty and infertility, and I feel like that's something I will struggle with in the future.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like it's important to have that kind of conversation with, and I feel like that's one of the first things you can tell a partner is like, oh yeah, just so you know, like, I am infertile. So, I mean, if you and your partner partner
You
are
can just say you're infertile, and then when you're more comfortable with them, if they stick around, like, tell them more about why.
yeah.
You don't
Oh
need
yeah,
to
for
jump
sure.
into everything right away.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
that is something that does also affect you mentally, because that's like really scary too. You're like, oh, they're just gonna leave and it's not gonna be like, there's no point in even trying, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, there definitely is anxiety around that, but if the person really loves you, they'll see you for who you are, and they won't
Yeah, saying
go
you're
through you
Exactly.
infertile can help weed out the people who don't actually care about you.
Yeah, like I was about to say, that is one plus side, is we'll be able to know who's the right one for us easier in that way.
All right. Those were Asher's questions.
That was it. Thanks to Micah and Asher and being questions, even though. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week.